So we're going to have a quick look in relation to understanding human rights and entitlements of the child. Now, the Human Rights Act of 1998, all persons have the protection of the Human Rights Act, that's adults and children. In addition to this, children have 54 articles of entitlement under the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Human Rights Act for all persons, so all of these acts, these rights refer to adults and children. The right to life, the right to prohibition of torture, the right to prohibition of slavery and forced labour, the right to liberty and security, the right to a fair trial, the right to no punishment without law, the right to respect for private and family life, the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, the right to freedom of expression, the right to freedom of assembly and association, the right to marry, and the right to prohibition of discrimination. Now, you might notice the letters A, L, and Q at the end of some of these rights. A represents it's an absolute right, L represents it's a limited right, and Q represents it's a qualified right. So what we need to look at now is, what does that actually mean? So highlighted in yellow are the absolute rights. So the absolute rights are the right to life, the right to prohibition of torture, the right to prohibition of slavery and forced labour, the right to no punishment without law. An absolute right means that this right cannot be restricted by the interests of the community as a whole, and absolute rights are those that cannot be infringed, and rights that the government and agencies must uphold in all circumstances. And it also includes the likes of your right to life, Article 2, two parts to it. So not only does the person have the right that you don't take their life, but you also have, if you work for the local authority and their organisation, a public body, a positive obligation to safeguard their life. So if those are the absolute rights, then let's have a look at the limited rights. So highlighted here in blue, the right to liberty and security, the right to a fair trial, the right to marry, and the right to prohibition of discrimination. So limited rights do not apply in all circumstances. For example, the right to liberty, if the arrest and detention is lawful, it may be affected by issues such as national security, interests of morality, or interests of young people under 18. So we've got the absolute rights, then the limited rights whereby if other things supersede them and other laws exist, so you can be arrested and lose your liberty and security and held and sent to prison, but only if it's a legal hold. Then we have the qualified rights, which are highlighted in green. And that's the right to respect for private and family life, the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, the right to freedom of expression, the right to freedom of assembly and association. So these are qualified rights, which relate to matters where interference by the public authority is permissible if it's in the public's interest and can be qualified. For example, prevention of crime, public safety, national security. Now, in addition then to those rights, we have what's known as the Convention Rights of the Child. Now, a convention is a treaty or legal instrument. It's an agreement in international law between countries. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is a wide-ranging international treaty of articles defining the rights of the child. And we have 54 articles, of which I've highlighted just some of them in relation to the likes of children and the education sector. So first off, we've got Article 3, best interests of the child. The best interests of the child must be the primary concern in making decisions that may affect them. All adults should do what is in the best interests of the child. Article 6, survival and development. Children have the right to live, survive and develop healthily. Article 8, preservation of identity. Children have the right to an identity. Article 12, respect for the views of the child. When adults are making decisions that affect children, children have the right to say what they think and feel and have their opinions taken into consideration. Article 15, freedom of association. Children have the right to meet together and to join groups and organisations. Article 19, protection from all forms of violence. Children have the right to be protected from being hurt and mistreated, either physically or mentally. Any form of discipline involving violence is unacceptable. Article 23, children with disabilities. Children who have any kind of disability have the right to special care and support to live independent lives. Article 25, review of treatment in care. Children who are looked after by local authorities have the right to have their living arrangement regularly reviewed to ensure it's in the best interests of the child. Article 28 is the right to education. All children have the right to a primary education which should be free of charge. Discipline within schools should not include violence and should respect the rights and entitlements of the child. Article 31, leisure, play and culture. Children have the right to relax and play and join in a range of cultural, artistic and recreational activities. Now, this is one to consider in relation to behaviour management plans and whether things such as playtimes and socialisation are withdrawn. And is it withdrawn in relation to a punishment, or is it withdrawn because of the behaviour of the child puts other children at risk? Now, if the current behaviour is that it's putting other children at risk, then it can be withdrawn for that period of time whilst the other children are at risk. But if the reason it's being withdrawn is purely out of a punishment methodology, then that would be breaching Article 31. Article 33 is in relation to drug abuse. Article 33 also means that children and young people should be protected from the effects of a parent's drug use and that their lives shouldn't be made more difficult because of it. Also bear in mind that all medicines are drugs. All drugs can also, well, some drugs can be classed as medicines. So it's a wider area than just thinking of illegal drugs. Article 37, detention and punishment. No child shall be subjected to torture or other cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment. No child shall be deprived of his or her liberty without unlawfully or arbitrarily. Every child deprived of his or her liberty shall have the right to prompt access to legal and other appropriate assistance, as well as the right to challenge the legality of the deprivation. And this is where then you get things brought in such as the DOLS, so the Deprivation of Liberty Safeguards, and also the Mental Capacity Act. Article 39, rehabilitation of child victims. It's state parties shall take all appropriate measures to promote physical and psychological recovery and social reintegration of a child victim of any form of neglect, exploitation or abuse, torture or any other form of cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment or armed conflicts. Such recovery and reintegration shall take place in an environment which fosters the health, self-respect and dignity of the child. So just from that short summary, the question would be then, how do human rights and entitlements fit within your school, nursery, further education site? And we are available to discuss the issues further or wider at Total Train Limited.